I was a retail banker, and during that time, I got really interested in financial freedom. I got my real estate license. That year, I bought my first duplex as a partnership with my dad, and I made one sale that year with my license, which actually made me more than I would have made all year at the bank. We had a really big hurricane back in 2018, and seeing the properties that he would buy, he would renovate or bring them back to life, just the way he approached those with no fear, removed a lot of my fear. I believe by the end of the project, when the property is looking nicer and more developed, we should be getting close to 2,000 per home. So I love the numbers.
Welcome back to Multifamily Rockstars. And let me mention this because of feedback from you guys and because we're always trying to make things better in my Warrior program and just in general, putting content out and everything else. We decided to make these episodes more of a deep dive instead of, just glossing over the surface stuff. I love to talk about mindset and psychology, but less of that and more practical multifamily deals, guest deals, give you more practical, actionable items for getting started and doing your first deal, especially if you're new to multifamily. So, and of course, I got my co-host, Mark Nagy here.
Hey, Rod, you'll be happy to know, actually, I was mistaken on our last podcast. We've actually done well over 100 of these now with Warriors. And so we've surpassed that. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, all we do is bring in successful warriors to interview on these episodes here. So we've got a great guest today. His name's Cain McNeil, and Cain's in Panama City, which is absolutely beautiful. And before we started recording, I was telling him 15 years ago, I could have bought houses a block from the beach for under $100,000 a piece. And, that's my woulda, coulda, shoulda story, but, we've all got them. But anyway, Cain is in 190 doors as a GP or partner. They're not syndications, and he's in one of our deals actually in Nashville as a limited partner. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Rod. Thanks for having me. Appreciate y'all's time today.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us some background on you, bud? You've got an interesting story. I really enjoyed reading it, being broke and all that. So yeah, tell us your life story and why real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So graduated University of Florida around 2011. From there, I traveled the country and taught snowboarding, which is kind of how I wound up broke in my mid-20s, but that's okay. I had a good time. Around that time, got my first big boy job. I was a retail banker at a local bank, well, a national bank, but a local branch. And during that time, I got really interested in financial freedom, read things like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, of course. I got my real estate license, and that year I bought my first duplex as a partnership with my dad. And I made one sale that year with my license, which actually made me more than I would have made all year at the bank. So I decided to try this thing full time and slowly built and self-managed my portfolio from that point. And, fast forward today, now I own a couple management companies and 190 doors and that deal with you.
Fantastic. So you were broke at age 25, snowboarding. It's funny. I literally just had somebody here on my couch that was an expert in wakeboarding. I mean, like a big deal. And of course, now I forgot his freaking name. But anyway, I forgot what I had for breakfast. So that's not surprising. So, I know that you competitively bodybuild, and you talk about how that discipline, which takes a lot of discipline, has helped you in your real estate career. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'd say the structure that allowed, that kind of set my life up to be lived has helped in business and all aspects of life, I'd say, my family life and everything. But really one of the big things I think the bodybuilding led to was waking up early. And I think you hear it so many times now, it's kind of cliche though, but it's really helped me. It's like starting off the day early and being able to be proactive and intentional with my time rather than rolling out the door late and being kind of reactive to the world. Consistently over time seems to work,
What are some of those things you're doing at that time? I'm sure you're not talking to brokers at 4 a.m. in the morning. So what do you typically get done that helps you get ahead for the day and make progress?
Sure. I like to, a big thing I like to do is say my gratitudes at that time. It's kind of a peaceful time in the morning. It gets my mind set in a good space for the day. That's the time I have my to-do list each day, and I'll start on that. If it's emails, if it's reviewing the work for the day, and kind of setting up my day, eating my first meal, of course, and a few hours later, my daughter and wife get up, and it's time to help the daughter get to school, and then get out the door to work.
How old's your daughter?
She's 7.
What a blessing. What a blessing.
You.
You know, one of the gifts that I give my warriors is a book called The Miracle Morning, which talks about starting your day off right. It's Hal Elrod's book. I've had him on the podcast a couple of times, and you know, and it's just, you know, some of the things you just said. You know, it's some gratitude or prayer. It's journaling. You know, journaling gives you clarity, and clarity is power. It's exercise. I don't know if you exercise then or you wait till later in the day. I do it late in the day, but a lot of people like it in the morning. And you know, and what am I forgetting? There's like one other thing he calls it. Yeah, I forgot what the other thing is. But yeah, that's a fantastic way to start the day off. And gratitude's a huge thing as well. You know, I have my cold plunge now. I just got in, you know, earlier for 5 minutes at 50 degrees, and I always do gratitude. That's my cue to do gratitude. And you know, when you start your day off that way, you're going to have a great day. It's inevitable that you're going to have a great day. So
100% agreed. I love that book as well. It's a great book.
Yeah.
And I'll mention real quick for the night owls like me who hate the mornings, Miracle Evening works just as well if you change it to the evening. So I always thought I'd mention that.
Really?
Just take the Miracle Morning and do it in the evening before you go to bed. Works just as well for me.
You lazy bastard.
I know, right? I hate the mornings. No, one thing I was curious about, Cain, the management company, you manage over 1,400 units. Now, kind of walk me through that thought process. Did you get into that before you started expanding into multifamily? Did that come afterwards? What was the idea behind that?
No, great question. So I was self-managing. I was up to 37 doors at the time. And as a sales agent locally, I've really focused on smaller multifamily deals. I brokered a lot of, say, 4 to 50 units, just because that's kind of how my local market is, and mobile home parks as well. So through that, I became a really successful sales agent. And so things were going really well. I approached my broker and said, hey, I'm probably going to start my own brokerage, just kind of focus on, property management, working with investors. Thank you for the time here. It's been great. He said, absolutely not. And he actually offered me some equity in his property management company, which has been here since the 1970s. So it's a really well-established company. And we purchased another company and rolled that into ours last year as well, which brought us about 10 full-time managers, a few admin, and brought us to that 1,400 unit mark.
Wow.
Very nice. Very nice. So, you know, in this business, there are lots of different hats a person can wear. You know, the multifamily space is really a team sport, especially as you get into the larger deals, which is, I'm sure, on your radar. You know, what types of listeners would relate to you? You know, which archetype do you believe you are as it relates to your, this business? There's lots of different hats you can wear. Which one do you think you're wearing?
Sure. I think I relate more to the investor for the most part, but however, I am actively involved with the management. So an asset manager in a sense as well. But the way I learned really was from ground up. So I started with a duplex, and I was cutting the grass, I was patching the walls. And while I don't recommend that for everyone, it really helped me understand the nitty gritty of the business. And so now I can know if we're making good or bad decisions when we make decisions as managers. And so, but it has evolved now. There is more leverage in hiring these things out, and you can grow faster. However, I do think there's a lot of power in, there's a few routes you can go. So a few of the local landlords, one, for example, that I work a lot with, he probably owns 160 single family homes, but very well off. And I know 160 doors isn't a lot compared to a lot of the people you have on this show, but when you own that by yourself, and he has a few little managers that work for him, It's pretty powerful.
One thing you said I'm going to push back on, honestly. I think it's a great idea to buy a freaking Plex and learn on that Plex. And you're going to have some seminars, you're going to get your butt kicked, but there is no greater proving ground to learning about renovations, learning about tenants, learning about all these different pieces that are going to carry over into the larger assets. So I absolutely think it's a fantastic idea to do that if you have the ability to do that.
Yep, I agree with that. Another piece of that is working with some of these local investors. You know, one, for example, I think he owns 4,000 apartments in the Southeast. However, his home base is kind of here. And we had a really big hurricane back in 2018, and seeing the properties that he would buy, he would renovate or bring them back to life. And just the way he approached those with no fear removed a lot of my fear. So being able to see that and that firsthand experience was invaluable.
Oh, sure.
So let's jump into your first bigger deal now, stepping up here, which I know is 86 unit lot mobile home park. And you have an interesting story. You mentioned you cold called the owner, but 6.5 years ago in 2017, but you ended up buying it in 2023. And I have a few follow-up questions with this, but I want to first start with, how'd you even start? How'd you go about cold calling the owner? Where do you get that information? Why did you decide to call this person? Where did that even come from?
Sure. So that was around the time I was really building my sales business, and this particular park, in my opinion, was probably the best location in the city as far as a mobile home park goes. And so through that, I was learning how to cold call. I was just cold calling everybody in town, basically. And this owner, somewhat hard to work with at first, but we ultimately came to terms. And so we had this. I actually was going to partner with another investor I'd worked with, I'd sold some properties for. We were going to buy the deal, and it actually fell apart. And about a month later, Hurricane Michael, a Category 5 hurricane, hit our county and destroyed the property. And during that time, the municipality this property sits in told the owner he could not rebuild. The owner actually had to go through litigation with the city for years to be told, actually, it is protected through a state statute and he can rebuild. So when we bought it, of the 86 lots, there were 20 old homes left in very poor condition. Almost worthless, most of the homes. And the people living there, we told them, hey, save your money, don't pay rent. We'll give you 6 months to a year to move out. And we actually just ended that process and are now bringing in new homes. And I think you had some more questions on that.
Well, yeah. What kind of follow-up process did you do throughout that, 6 years to keep in touch with his owner instead of just bugging, hey, you want to sell, you want to sell, you want to sell? What kind of things did you do to continue to add value and eventually get this deal?
Good
so
question.
I mentioned at first he was a little harder to work with, just kind of an older gentleman and very successful man, but just set in his ways. And but through the first contract, we developed some rapport. The deal fell apart. We probably weren't the best of friends at that time. But then after the hurricane hit our area really came together, just as catastrophes seem to do. And so we would bounce ideas off each other over the next few years. It may not even be related to that property, but I'd kind of ask, hey, what's going on? Is the city still giving you a hard time? And it was just through that. And he actually had the property listed with another broker for probably a year and a half before we ended up buying it. So during that time, I would touch base with the broker, hey, are these issues removed? And they probably, I would say about a year before we bought the property, the litigation with the city was done. Everything was fine. However, in my opinion, the property wasn't being marketed to its potential. So it was kind of just sitting there. And I think it's one of those deals that someone local would see the value more so because it's such a big turnaround. I actually floated it past a few bigger funds nationally, and they turned it down. And since it's kind of funny, one of them actually called me since we bought it, and he was asking me about the property, and I mentioned, hey, I told you about this last year, and it was just interesting. He didn't recall, but he said he would have been interested had he known the details. But it's just kind of funny how those things work out.
I woulda,
Oops.
coulda, shoulda, that's it. Nobody wants a mobile home park in their backyard. If the city can get rid of one, that's what they're going to do. And it's a shame that they put that guy through that crap because, you hear about that all the time. And, so you're bringing in brand new homes. You're buying them from Warren Buffett's company?
We're actually, so Clayton's number one in the country. We're buying them from Champion Skyline. They're number two. We did look at Clayton. They have some great homes. We may use them on other projects.
Okay.
However, the financing, the manufacturer and a third-party lender that teamed up to give us was incredible. So they're financing the mobile home purchase 100% of the invoice, plus about 50% of our setup cost to set these homes up, approximately $17,000. So we're almost getting all of the homes for no money down. And we bought.
So here's a question.
Yes.
Sorry, here's a question. I'll come back to the land. Are you going to rent them as homes, or are you going to sell them and let them pay lot rent?
So it will be more of a multifamily type business structure. We'll rent them as homes. However, we may sell them, say, in 10 years or so.
Okay. Okay.
But I really like the numbers. Land cost was about $23,000 per lot. The owner gave us really good financing terms, only 10% down, interest only for a few years, amortized over 30 years after that. So pretty good. And, so lot cost plus home cost, we're probably all into each lot for about $103,000. Beginning rents should be about $1,750. And I believe by the end of the project, when the property is looking nicer and more developed, we should be getting close to $2,000 per home. So I love the numbers.
Singles or doubles?
Single wides.
Single wides, and you're getting $1,700 a freaking month. And so, good Lord!
In our market, it's interesting. That's, for the most part, that's less than you could rent a 2-bedroom apartment at a nicer apartment complex with amenities. So we can offer 3 bedrooms and not shared walls for less, which is
okay. All right. And they don't have somebody living above them, below them, next to them, nothing. They got a little yard and everything. So no, as long as the construction is decent, some of these mobile homes, man, I was going to build, I'd bought some waterfront lots here when I first moved to Florida. This was a lifetime ago. There's waterfront lots for $60,000 a piece where you could take a boat out to the Gulf. And so I got some prefabbed houses. The first one we put in, I walk in, the floor's freaking spongy, and I nixed the whole thing and just sold the lots. I got disgusted, but I know the construction's gotten a lot better since then. That I know for sure.
And they have stainless appliances, LVP flooring. I mean, they look pretty nice.
Yeah.
So what do you be surprised you're in a mobile home?
Yeah.
What do you think you saw in this deal that other people didn't, that passed on it? What was it? Your management experience that helped you kind of get in some things that other people didn't see, or what was it that made this a deal?
I think that I guess this has been an advantage for me, and also probably held me back in some ways, as I've been hyper focused on my local market, just both with my brokerage and investing. And that's probably limited me. I could probably grow faster by syndicating and going outwards. However, I think on the advantage side this is a good example where to the outsider, this, what is this? This is a piece of land that needs complete redevelopment. It's going to take forever, and I'm not even sure I can recoup my capital. But I just think it took someone seeing, for example, I can rent these homes out for less than a 2-bedroom apartment. I'm not sure. I am still surprised that no one bought it.
Yeah, well, that's a big lift, though. That's a big lift. I mean, we're bringing homes in, financing those homes and all that. I'm a little surprised, though, just for my own edification, because I know a lot about mobile homes. So 17 grand seems high for the setup. Why is it so expensive?
So in that cost, I'm including building the front and back decks, the HVAC setup, things like that. Skirting. Okay,
got it.
All the above, turnkey.
All right, got it. Okay, now it makes sense. Okay, so let me ask you this. What is your superpower? At my warrior events and boot camps, I always have people get up and network and say, okay, tell everybody your superpower, exchange information, because who you know in this business is the most important thing, and there's lots of different hats you can wear. What do you think yours is?
I would like to say for the most part, it's been deal finding locally. And that's
Okay.
just been through, but I think my superpower in that is absolute persistence in what I do. I think a little bit each day goes such a long way over time. Um, you know, I don't think I've done anything extremely phenomenal. It's a little bit each day and it adds up, and then the results look good at the end.
Okay.
A guy like you, very disciplined, had some real estate and management experience. What made you even decide to like come into a group like ours at the end of the day then?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I didn't want to leave. I wondered, hey, what am I missing out? I've loved Rod's content. I've been taking it in since day one.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there are other similar groups out there and whatnot, but I did get a genuine sense from Rod that he more kind of cares about his students, yeah, my experience has been great. And I also, I don't know that I've learned necessarily the mechanics of real estate, but I've learned a lot in the sense that through networking and meeting other warriors and just kind of seeing that, hey, these are just normal people that decide to learn and do it. And I think for me, that's a big light bulb moment.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest benefits, I think, is just being around people that aren't naysayers, that aren't afraid of your dreams, that aren't afraid of sometimes very big dreams. And we got, huge, operators in the group, and just being around that environment is incredible. Well, listen, by the way, if you're listening and you want to apply to our incredible Warrior program, text the word crush to 72345 and we can help you crush it in this business. And I think we're somewhere now around 190,000, possibly closer to 200,000 doors that my Warriors own, which just blows my freaking mind. But yeah, again, text crush to 72345 if if you'd like to check us out, and we'll check you out as well. We don't take everybody, but I can promise you this: you make that call, you'll leave that call better than when you got on it. And if you do, then we will be speaking.
Obviously, we talk a lot about interest rates lately. Everybody's talking about interest rates. I know one thing specifically, dealing with myself included in Florida and some other states, Texas as well. And Rod, maybe you can speak to this: insurance, right? Insurance rates have gone off the charts. It's killing a lot of deals in the underwriting. What are you seeing right now? What are some of the things you're doing to kind of mitigate that and make sure you're getting into the right deals, since insurance is a lot of the times doubled in some of these markets like Florida?
Well, like Panama City, where he is, where they had that huge hurricane, I promise you're paying a lot for insurance.
Especially if it's in a flood zone, then it's even more than a standard insurance.
Absolutely. So a few notes on that. I give you a quick example. I bought a property a little bit north of our county, a 44 unit deal, and these are 44 townhomes, say 2.5 years ago. When I bought that property, my annual premium for insurance was $13,000. The renewal I just received was for $67,000 in 2 years. So
4x, 5x.
Through working with my agent and a little finagling, we were able to get that down to about 42,000, but it's still approximately 300% increase. That being said, some things I will probably look out for in the future is probably post 2000 build. It just seems that the newer stuff, the rates don't go as crazy on. On that particular 44 unit, 2 of the buildings were built in the 60s. And I know that that's what's really hurting me there.
I'll tell you something. Let me share something with you. So when Hurricane Charlie hit Port Charlotte here, Charlotte County, Florida, I was the largest single family homeowner there. I had 360 houses. And I mean, I was at a Tony Robbins event in LA and my team's like, Rod, you need to get back. We had a hurricane. I'm like, forget it. It just started. I'm not leaving now. They're like, Rod, you need to come back. They convinced me to come back. And it was like a freaking bomb went off down there. I mean, even telephone poles were busted off at about 10 feet up. I mean, it's crazy. But What was interesting that blew my mind, and by the way, mobile home parks, I saw a mobile home park look like a freaking hurricane, like a tornado had got in there and jumbled it all together. There's piles of freaking metal. There's no way anybody could survive. Anybody that doesn't leave when a hurricane's coming in a mobile home is insane, personally. But what was interesting is I had houses, 60s built houses. I had 80s built houses as well. But I would have a 60s built house and the garage blew away. The front porch blew away. The back porch blew away. The roof was, I had one guy that was in his house and everything from the ceiling up blew away. He had daylight. Okay. The whole thing blew away. But next to a house built in the 80s with some shingles missing. Okay. That was it. So it was like, it was the quality of the construction, how it improved is staggering. I just wanted to put an exclamation mark on what you just said about going for newer stuff, because I saw it. It was like you'd see a destroyed 60s built house literally next to an 80s built that had some shingles missing. So anyway, absolutely, as an aside, but let me ask you this. We have a lot of listeners that want to get into this business and they haven't pulled the trigger yet. I personally believe we're heading into an incredible economic environment to buy multifamily. There's a lot of operators in trouble. I know there's deals. We've got an incredible deal under contract right now, screaming deal. And so, speak to those guys that haven't done anything yet. They know they freaking need to. Their family deserves it. They deserve it. Give them a little encouragement. What would you say to them?
I think it goes back. So what worked for me, and I know that maybe someone with more of a faster growth mindset may not agree, but what worked for me was starting small with that duplex. And I think it goes back to those small daily wins. I mean, if they get into a duplex, they learn that, what's the difference in two? If I can manage two, I can manage 20 because the problems are the same. And I think those small mindset shifts is just a small daily win each day is what they need, because the longer they hold themselves back is probably going to be more inevitable that they don't take any action.
For people listening that feel more comfortable in that zone of maybe starting smaller, working their way up instead of maybe jumping into a 300 unit syndication, what are some of the lessons that you learned doing that, starting small and then jumping up to 80 plus at this point in time? How did that help you?
Well, for example, my mom warned me that tenants would be calling me at midnight about their toilet. That never happened.
It can happen.
Surprise.
It can listen, it can happen, but it's not very common. Okay. I'm just going to tell you in my, how old am I now? In my 48 years, it's maybe happened twice. Okay. Right. And I didn't answer the damn phone because my phone was off, but yes, it can happen. But anyway, yeah.
It can happen. But I think the point is some of those fears, some of those irrational fears you learn are just that they're irrational. And, I think just going through the process is what will give them that confidence.
So one of the things we just started doing is, I know we have people that have questions and they hear someone they resonate with. And so if it's okay with you, are you okay with listeners reaching out to you? And if so, Absolutely. How and where can they find you, brother?
No, that'd be great. I'd love to help anybody anytime. They can find me on LinkedIn, Cain McNeil, Facebook. Because I'm an agent, they could even Google Cain McNeil, Panama City. They'll probably find my information.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, brother. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and adding some value. And, I'm excited to see where you're at, a couple of years from now. And you're a very humble guy and you've done some great things. And, I'm glad you're in our group, my friend.
Me as well. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate y'all's time.
See you guys.
All right, brother. Be well. Thanks. So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow. And they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. But see, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship Program. They're our coaching students and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship Program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345. Or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now, again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.